Operation Self Reset with Jacob Naraki. What is going on, Resetters? This is Operation Self Reset. I am Jacob Naraki, and welcome to the one and only place to transform your life to the person you are right now, to that person you strive, crave, and want to become. I'm very excited because not only do we have a great guest on the podcast today, her name is Sonja Lewis. She has a new book that's coming out, and we kind of dive into deep talk, like usual, on the podcast. But I also have some great news about reaching goals. Yesterday, I just got word that I will be on, I am currently already on one live feeding radio station called Program Your Life Radio. But also, too, I will be currently on a second internet radio station called Be Well Radio, and that is on the Radio I.O. platform. You guys can go find them on numerous apps and website links, and they're all over the place. Literally, if you just type in programyourliferadio.com and also Radio I.O., you will get transferred to the Be Well channel, and I am on there with numerous other experts in different fields, all pertaining to life transformation, resetting your life, gives you ideas about fitness and health and goal setting, finances. It just keeps going on and on and on, and they keep adding some other great authors and podcasters and people with some great tips on ways to improve your life. So if that interests you, I highly suggest you guys go on over there and check it out because, you know what? I am one man with one mic, and I can only do so much to inspire you day after day. So I highly suggest if you are craving more of this great material, head on over there and get a glimpse of what other people are talking about. I would truly just want you to listen to me 24/7, but that's not the case because we all have different things going on. We like different people, and I suggest get some different aspects when it comes to life. And I hope you stick with me, and I hope you enjoy the content that I'm sharing with you because I really am passionate about this. I really am passionate about transforming your life truly to that person you want to become, resetting, and it's easy to say, but that's not always the case. And like I said, last episode, I was going to talk about change is not easy, and it's not because you kind of get stuck in this rut of life, and you get stuck with your personality, you get stuck with the way you dress, the way you act, eat, work out, your kind of way of thinking. But truly, if you want to transform and change, you need to get rid of your old habits and your old ways. And how do we go about that? Well, there's a lot of ways to do that, and it's easier said than done. But at the end of the day, I truly believe that you need to start with something. It starts with one step in a direction, and that's all it takes. I'm not going to give you a 35-step formula plan that you need to write out and, have diagrams all over your house. It really just starts with one thing. And what is that one thing? What is the one thing that you want to start with? I highly suggest it's something that really is bothering you. No matter what it is, and maybe if it's your negative attitude, maybe it's you being jealous all the time, maybe you're just lacking self-confidence, maybe it's the job that you hate and you need to find another one. That one thing that is bothering you day after day after day, tackle that first. And that's truly going to be your most difficult because it's something that bothers you so much. And they say the best way to overcome an obstacle that is very, very challenging is to tackle it right away. For example, it's like making that very difficult phone call to maybe a coworker, to a boss, to a family member, to your friend, whatever it may be. Don't wait until the last thing, on your list for that day because you're going to be analyzing it all day, getting nervous and going, should I really contact the person? Should we really be talking about this subject? No, just get it out of the way now. Pick up the phone and call that individual and talk it out and get it out of the way. Think how good you're going to feel when it's over with. Just think to yourself that when you are trying to accomplish your task or a new way of thinking or that new job, think how good it will feel when you do accomplish that, when you are in that new job, when you are thinking better, when you're not jealous. Instead of that person that drives past you in that Lamborghini or Bentley or whatever it may be, instead of cursing them and trying to throw your soda can at them, maybe just think to yourself, how appreciative you are of that person driving past you so you can look at a beautiful car and someday think to yourself, that is mine to take. I can accomplish that. That is my goal. to achieve that great success, whatever it is. I don't know. So enough about me, like usual, because I just keep talking and talking, talking. Today we have a great guest on, Sonja Lewis. She has a new book that comes out, The Blindsided Prophet. It's kind of a cool read, very deep into some ideas on the way that we think about our lives. And the cool thing about this interview is that Sonja and I really talk about all different aspects when it comes to our own personal lives. It's a great little interview that I had with her, considering I never knew her beforehand. And that's the one thing I love about this podcasting thing, is that truly you never know who you're going to end up talking to on a random day during the week. And I was blessed and honored to be talking with Sonja. So here is the interview with Sonja Lewis and everything that she has to talk about: way of life thinking, subconscious mind, all of that fun stuff. And here is the interview. Hey, OSR community. Today we have Sonja Lewis. She just created a book called The Blindsided Prophet, and I have her on today because she wants to talk to us about taking responsibility for our thoughts and actions, and I personally believe it's a really powerful topic. And Sonja, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Jacob.
And do you mind giving a background of who you are and where you kind of came from for the listeners that don't know about you?
Sure, I'd be very happy to. I am a full-time writer. I've been writing for a very long time, for as long as I can remember. But I sort of have reached this career in fiction by way of journalism, as well as I've been a communications consultant and a PR person. I'm American and I do live in London, but I've been here for about 16 years next year. But in America, I worked as a reporter and also in Georgia and then in New York City as a media specialist, a PR person, and met my husband actually. And then through our relationship, came to live in London and started writing fiction, really focused on my fiction. I've always been writing, but focused on it quite seriously when I came here about, as I said, 15 years ago.
Okay, perfect. And how do you like London compared to America?
They're very different places. I absolutely love it here. It's fantastic, in terms of the energy, and I really appreciate the diversity and just, feeling. I grew up in the country, but I'm very much, a city girl, one of those people that my mom and dad have often wondered, where did they get this person? Because I've always sort of gravitated towards, the city. I came to understand the value of the country when I start writing fiction, though. It's such a wonderful, lush background and rich settings that I've been able to sort of pull in, some of the cultural things there. So I will always be American and I will always come back to the States because of family ties. And I do love the place. But I live here now, and I am a person who tends to focus on and really get into the moment and where I live. And I love London, and I feel a bit sort of a fish out of the water, if I'm honest, when I'm away from it too long. So that's sort of how it works.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So let's talk about the book, The Blindside Prophet. Like I said, this podcast is all about life transformation. Getting you from where you are right now to that person that you want to become. And I talk a lot about mindset. I talk about I was just going to say taking responsibility, but that's actually your line. But talking about kind of everything that is really quoted in this book here. And can you tell us, how did you think of this idea and where did you get the thoughts to create a book like this?
Yes. And, I've written and I still write nonfiction as well. But for a long time, have wanted to really explore fiction. And I think it's fantastic to take a wonderful subject such as this one and explore it in fiction, because you get free range. You get to do things that you might be limited when you're doing nonfiction. And so with this is my second novel. And what happened was, when I wrote my first novel, just to tell you a little bit, it's called The Baroness. And it's sort of a very sort of positive thing as well, because I really wanted to start a worldwide conversation on the topic of being child free and childless because I don't have children. And I had seen, growing up in the deep South, and I had seen women who didn't have children, particularly my dad's sister, probably the only person in the family who didn't have children because it's a very powerful thing in the South. I seen her, I think, feel rather unhappy and feel rather trapped, and that sort of determined, made her a difficult woman. And I thought, don't really want to be that. I don't want that for myself. But more importantly, I don't want that for women and girls, generations to come. So I want to do something about this. And I thought, I love fiction. I want to take this story and I'm going to explore it through fiction. And that's how we came about with The Baroness. And with The Blindsided Prophet, I wanted to go, sort of to the next level. With The Baroness, it was all about finding happiness in your own space. And I'm very, very sort of moved by and very much a big reader and fan of James Baldwin. And Baldwin had a quote. One of his many quotes was, you write in order to change the world. If you alter even a millimeter the way people look at reality, then you can change it. Now I knew, I didn't think that I could change the entire world with The Blindsided Prophet. But my goal was to change the way readers think about their strong beliefs and values. And I will dare to say their religion, if you will, just looking at what drives you at a deeper level. Because believing something religiously, I think it's a cornerstone of any society, but more importantly, of a person's lifestyle, of their day-to-day living. And so many times we just get trapped into negative limiting thinking, whether that's worrying or whether that's staying in a job that we don't really want or relationship. And we just began to debate and see it as, this is what is supposed to be, I'm stuck and so forth and so on. And I'm challenging, readers, or what I'm suggesting is that we have the power to change that from within through our own thinking. And I thought that, again, I wanted a global thinker with my main character, Isaiah Brown. He is a prophet and he is a fantastic sort of global thinker. And this is what I wanted to do, was to just show people it's within your mind. You've got the power to do it.
Yeah. Negative thinking affects a lot of people, especially on my podcast. I ask them to email me and, we kind of talk and chit chat. And a lot of the things that come up are, I'm in a very toxic job. I can't get out. I have this going on. I have this negative, people around me and stuff like that. Where do you feel, or what do you feel, from what you learned or what you have written, to get over those negative barriers in our lives? And you said it all starts with the mind, but do you mind diving a little deeper into that?
Sure. I think that if I could somehow start some sort of curriculum, as early on as kindergarten or maybe even first grade or something. And I think that some school systems across the world do, tend to start getting their children thinking early on. Like in France, for example, I think that in the curriculum is philosophy. They don't wait until they get to university, for example. And I think that, in terms of long-term and long-range change, I mean, that's a wonderful dream, is to get people thinking about thinking as a communication skill. And in the meantime, and that's a long time from now, it would be lovely if our society began to do that. But in the interim, I think then each individual really has to examine, herself and just, begin to look at some of the specific situations, that she might find herself in. I did a couple of pieces on this subject. I blog for the Huffington Post in UK. And one of the kind of funny things that writing just evolves that came out of it was I think, I read lots of different books and everything. And one of the books is Harry Carpenter, The Power of the Subconscious Mind, The Genie Within. And I, in my blog, talked about that's fantastic if we could all tap into, the subconscious mind,
Oh yeah.
and have it as our personal genie. But I think first we have to accept that sometimes the subconscious mind is rather a monster within. We find ourselves sort of acting like Cookie Monster and these sort of different, monsters. And once we began to sort of tap into that, acceptance is the first thing. And so that's sort of the first sort of practical tip that I would offer, is that to accept that we really don't have to be the victims. Is to actually buy into the concept that you do have the power within to change the way that you think, therefore changing your experiences.
Sure. When you speak of the subconscious mind, and, I call it negative chatter, because, you're always talking to yourself internally and analyzing every situation, no matter going back to that toxic job, you're thinking to yourself, I really need to get out of this. But that negative chatter saying, well, where are you going to go? Are you going to get a job that pays, this much right away? What's your family going to do? All that stuff.
Yeah.
Through the studies and everything that you have learned, have you found a way to control that or harness that at least?
Interestingly enough, it's a journey, and it is a day-to-day thing, and it is also an act of will. It's sort of like,
Yeah.
Anything, forgiveness or doing something, you have to will yourself. And I'll give you a couple of examples. I think over the years, I've never seen myself as a hypochondriac, but I think others might have seen me a bit, as a hypochondriac. And as I started focusing more on this way of thinking and this way of moving forward, because what I recognized is I didn't like the space I was in. I used to run when I was significantly younger, and I spent a whole lot of time, years, focusing on bad knees. I couldn't run because this was wrong with my knees. Every time I got into running, my knees were going to blow out. Lots of money on podiatrists and physios, you name it. And the minute that I really started talking to myself, and I sort of, just go ahead. I know a lot of people say their subconscious minds have a name. I tried that and it didn't work. So I just call it Sonja. It just doesn't work. I tried everything. And I just say, okay, Sonja. For example, I woke up this morning. I run now probably about 12 miles a week. I try to. And that is only
Good.
3 or 4 miles sort of 3 times a week. But I really try to get that in. And I find that it's getting cold and, it's rainy. And so we don't want to run. And so we're finding everything, my knees are starting to hurt again. This is wrong, that's wrong. And I'm able to talk to myself. I can talk myself out of it. I just say, Sonja, we're not going to do that. This is really good. It's really good for us. And my husband thinks I'm a bit crazy, but it works. And I had a brilliant run this morning. I got up, I got over it. And I also have that sometimes when I'm under a lot of stress, just an amazing amount of stress when I'm writing and maybe I have to travel and all sorts of family things are going on. I tend to have, I'm not sure medically if you can call them panic attacks, but they certainly feel like that to me, where I just can't, I can't settle down. I can't go to sleep. And I learned also that I can talk myself out of those. I haven't tapped into meditation as brilliantly as I would like to, but I know how to pray. I know how to tap into my mind and calm myself down and also do the self-talk. And I find that, I have to do it really, really sort of fervently, and I have to be really focused. And I can get over those things. I can harness it in that way.
Yeah. That's powerful stuff that you just said there about, controlling yourself, talking to yourself. And that's really important. Truly the best talk is to ourselves, to get ourselves in line, to get over, whatever it is you're running, for example, and your own panic attacks. But it's really a lot of powerful things. And you said some really good stuff. How did you get into this subject? I mean, bareness, you talk about, happiness within. Now you got this new book. We're talking about taking responsibility for things that are going on in our lives. You have a good sense of your own personal body and mindset. How did you come into this? Was this just throughout your growing up? Did this come into when you really discovered your own passion of writing? How did you find this? Because a lot of people don't have that. So it's just kind of interesting to hear your positive energy when it comes to your own personal beliefs and everything like that.
Yeah, I think that it's a bit of both. I think that, as growing up, you experience a lot of things. And, I personally think I've experienced some very wonderful things, but I also, have experienced very challenging things. Maybe my first job as a young reporter in the South, in the USA, and you encounter things, it's back in the 80s, and you encounter things like racism or different things happen in your life. My husband is English. It's a different nationality, it's a different race, to my own and
Right.
everything. So you take paths in life where you encounter things. And I think that for me, I've always been taught by my parents, and I've been very fortunate with other adults around me as well. You have a choice. When you encounter even negative things, you have a choice in how you handle that. And I haven't always handled it very well. And I think sometimes not handling things very well and being stuck, and just realizing that I didn't want to be that way. And it's only probably the last 10 years of my life or so. Before that, I certainly dipped in and out of the reference books. And, I've been on, your website and everything, and all of the sort of positive thinking books. And I still read quite a few books, for research and everything. But I've
Right.
come to understand that it's all about me and how I perceive life. I'm not sure that I'm convinced that I, am in charge of every single thing, that every single experience. But I am convinced as an able bodied adult that I have a choice on how I respond, and that I know that I don't want to be in a negative space. And so I know what I did, to keep myself in that negative space. And therefore, it's like this gospel song that I love about from Mary about go get your blessings. You have to do something that you've never done, if you want to get something, that you've never had before.
And it's interesting what you said about the books, and I thought you were going to go with, well, everything you read is not always correct, and you have to shape it the way you want, and I really believe in that philosophy too, because we read, I love self-help books. I think there's a lot of power within, but also too there's a lot of things that don't apply to me, or things I don't believe in. And that's okay. And, one thing that I was taught at a young age when it came to reading is, take 10% of a book, whatever it may be, and utilize that towards your life. Not everything you're going to read is, oh, well, it's in the book, I have to believe this or whatever. So it's great to hear, how you came through the process of understanding how it works, and my different background too. So it's really cool to talk to you about this. And so going back to the book, I know that you did some really deep research when it came to putting together this book. Was there anything that really popped out to you that's super interesting that you want to share with us that you put in the book when it came to like understanding, like, and researching about it?
Yeah, I think one of the most sort of powerful tools that I'm able to use as fiction writer, but it's in reality there are people out there who are able to do this, and that is that lucid dreaming. And I wanted to take this modern day prophet. I wanted him to be a global thinker, a really special guy. And I wanted him to have a way of getting in touch with himself, but also a way of interacting, with other people. And I think it's a really powerful thing because when I first read about lucid dreaming and that's this concept of being able to, sort of interact with your dreams. And I just thought, okay, that's ridiculous. Not sure if that's all. It's what you said. You can't believe everything that you read. You have to take what works for you. I mean, there is at least, there's several, but there's at least one self-help book that comes to mind that I just couldn't get through with it. I tried to do my little 10% bit, but I couldn't. I just couldn't handle it because it just felt too way out there for me. But it doesn't mean that I trashed the authors and said that had no, credibility or whatever. It just wasn't for me. But I think this tool of lucid dreaming, I bring up that because a lot of people feel that way about it. Have a very close writer friend, another friend who is wonderful writer, and she writes some sort of ghost mystery, ghost stories.
Sure.
And I first heard about lucid dreaming through her, and then I started researching it. And I've managed to have at least one lucid dream in life. And it is very, very exciting. But it's also sort of quite scary if you don't know what you're doing. I would suggest that.
Do you mind explaining what a lucid dream is for the people that don't know?
Sure. It's, while you're dreaming, you become conscious, so to speak, within the dream state. Where you can sort of interact with your dream characters. You can fly, you can do different things, but you're asleep. But you're aware, that you're dreaming. You have to sort of, different things can happen where you can get, you can wake up and you're thrown out of the dream. But as long as you can stay in the dream and just have the stream of consciousness, that you're actually aware that you're dreaming. And there's a big debate about whether you can control the dream or not. I don't have a clue because I've only done it once, and a lot of researchers feel differently about it. But I do know that you can interact, you can ask dream characters questions, and it's really quite a powerful tool to sort of get in touch with yourself.
Yeah, that's I know about it. I have not done a lot of research on it, so I know the interaction that comes with it, and I've heard some pretty wild stories with it. So there is some pretty interesting facts about it, and maybe that's something I should dive into more for the listeners here. But when it came to putting together the book, what's one thing that you really that you're just really proud of? What a chapter or an idea or something that you feel super powerful, and if you wouldn't mind sharing that with us.
Yeah, going back to this idea of taking responsibility for your thoughts, thus sort of taking some of the responsibility for your experiences. And I think that the big thing that I got really excited about is the Blindsided Prophet deals with some difficult things, but I'm very proud of the fact that it is a story about redemption. And what it says is no matter how broken you are, you can be restored. And the prophet Isaiah Brown really sort of tries to get this across to people. And the way he says it is that, it's all about a new understanding. It's not about chucking who you are fundamentally or, sort of, I can't, I don't believe this anymore, but it's about really understanding yourself and what it is that you believe. And that if there is something that's limiting, that's holding you back about what you believe, then it's worth rethinking it, as a new covenant with yourself and whatever you believe, whether that's God or whether that's, I don't know, a field in the universe, but just being able to make a new covenant with yourself. And I think that message comes across quite sort of powerfully. And I'm very, very excited about that.
Now, you spoke of the universe and religion, and from my readings about you and what you've been saying, you are a religious person. And what are your thoughts of, say, the book like The Secret, where it is talking about the universe and having it work with you? And do you feel that, I don't want to get too deep into personal ideas and beliefs, but do you feel that there's a balance, or do you feel it's one-sided, or it's up to the individual?
I really think that it goes back to, what we were discussing earlier, that it's up to the individual.
Okay.
And unfortunately, not everyone reads like that. Some people do read things that are fundamentally different from what they believe, and that causes they can't tolerate it. They feel very upset about that, and they're not able to take anything away from that. But I do feel that what it comes down to is it is up to the individual. But I would like to think that you take into your reading, and there's something that you're able to balance. You can find balance. I find The Secret, quite a fun little book, and
Sure.
that's the way I take it. It's quite, and no offense to the actual, author or anything.
Oh yeah,
But
sure, sure.
I find it, for lack of a better word, it's quite shallow to me, and it's just a fun book, full of different sort of things. Whereas I've read, other books by Joseph Murphy about the power of the subconscious mind, and I reviewed those books. Those books are deep. They go into religion, they go into science, and they find that balance, and
Sure.
I appreciate that, and I love delving into it. But it doesn't mean that I'm not able to read a fun book like The Secret, and sort of, you know, I don't know, try and get something out of it. But after a while, this sort of, some of the things that they say to do, you just sort of say, because it's like anything else. If you don't really believe it, it's probably not going to work.
Right, right, right. And it's what you believe and what you take away from it. I just find it interesting because, some people believe in the universe, some people believe, religion, and, it's just interesting. I just wanted to get your personal opinion on it, and good answer, good answer. So this podcast is all about, like I said earlier, changing from who you are to the person you are today. Was there one point in your own personal life that you overcame something to get you in a position of where you are today, to be a writer, to have two books, to be writing for the Huffington Post? I mean, you set yourself up for great success. Throughout that time of, reaching your passion or whatever it may be, was there a time in your own life that you really had to overcome something to kind of get you to that next level? And if so, what was it, and how did you do that?
Yeah, I've spoken very sort of publicly about what it was, so I might as well go ahead again.
Okay. Oh,
Uh,
sorry. Okay.
no, I think it's a great question, and it goes back to my first novel. I grew up in the deep South, and as I've said, I grew up, sort of Southern Baptist, and I did something that's called a genogram. I don't know if you're familiar with those. I wasn't
No, I'm not.
until a little bit ago. Psychologists use them, and any counseling that any of us have had, some counselor might have used it. I don't know if they always tell you about it, but I guess they do have to tell you about it if they do it. But it's sort of like doing a family values map. You do a family history, like a family tree, but instead of just finding about grandpa so and so, you're finding out about their characteristics and their values and what they actually did, and so forth and so on. And it helps you to understand you and maybe some of the characteristics and some of the things that you value. Maybe they did come through the family tree. And oftentimes they didn't. You might have got them in some sort of life experience, but it's a very, very interesting exercise. And what I learned is that the concept of marriage and children, it's very, very important. And both sides of my family, my mom's family and my dad's family. I mean, it was like amazing, how many children, or, my grandfather, he was married before he married my grandmother. And then my grandmother, and it's some number, like, like 34 children. And you go, oh my God, they didn't all live.
Jeez.
And so I went through this phase of trying to make a lifestyle choice or a decision about whether to have children or not. I grew up in the USA. I'm here in England. I don't have close family here. And I believe very strongly in extended family and other people being involved in raising a child. And you would think that it would have been a fairly easy decision for me to make, well, if you don't want to have children, that's okay. But it was probably one of the most difficult decisions that I had to make. It was about convention. You know, what did I believe? Was I driven by what my family believed? Was I driven by convention? Was I driven by what, the Bible has to say about it? Or, was I going to stand up and be counted and reach deep down in myself, come up with what I believed? And it took probably about 2 years. And it ended with me deciding not to have children because that's really how I felt. And it was all about where I was in my life and what I wanted to do. I have 13 female first cousins and I have 5 sisters. And I'm the only one who doesn't have a child, of the women. And then of the men, there are probably 2 first cousins who don't have children. So it's a very sort of procreation, sort of driven family. And I was very, very challenged by this. But once I owned it, that I couldn't base my life on the external forces and what I believed other people were thinking about me. Some of it was quite real, and going to, let's say, back to the South and people asking, why don't you have children? Or even here in London, it's a very important thing in different cultures. And I remember being at a party, and instead of saying, do you have children? Someone said, well, who do you have? How do you answer something like that? And you begin to feel quite isolated. And I realized that it wasn't just me. It was sort of, there are people who desperately want children and they're unable to have children. And there are people who make the decision not to have children. And I know those are 2 different subjects to deal with. But when it comes down to it, when you don't have children, people sort of do tend to sort of size you up and, you're either a child catcher or, or something. And I had to overcome that. And one of the ways that I did overcome it was I wrote about it. I wanted to be able to do my first novel on that subject. And I know fiction is not necessarily supposed to be therapeutic, so I'm not sure how therapeutic it was, because you don't want to make it too sort of personal. You draw upon your experiences when it's fiction. But it was great, being able to open the doors, so to speak, be a part of that worldwide conversation, not just for myself. And, I'm quite a private person, so it was a bit sort of difficult at first. But once you start talking about something like that, that's really holding you down and it's difficult, to get over, if you talk about it in the right way and with the right people, I thought it was very powerful and it worked.
So you're saying that by you opening up and just talking about it, getting it off your chest, off your shoulders, off your mind, you became a better person after letting that go.
Absolutely. I became more confident about who I am and my decision. I don't really second guess it. I don't look back on it. When I do, I kind of can, have those memories of understanding and knowing. I don't feel sad about it. I don't have regrets. And I think that's very important, because instead of just holding it inside and hanging on to those beliefs, they were driving me. And I guess in short, what I'm saying is I had to reprogram my thinking.
Yeah, that's very powerful. Not only reprogram yourself, but with getting things off your mind and off your chest, you become a better person. You become almost comfortable within your own skin again, and you can live your life without feeling like you're holding something back or always analyzing something from within. So that's really powerful in itself. Thanks for sharing that. And before I let you go, this podcast is all about helping others improve their own lives. Anything that you could say to an individual that is struggling in their current position? Obviously, we don't have a story to share with you that you could give suggestions to, but anything overall, you said some great things already in the podcast about, you have a choice and, getting, beliefs off your chest and shoulders, whatever. Anything else that you really feel is a game changer when it comes to improving other people's lives that you could share with them?
Yeah, I think that one of the key things that I would say to individuals who were going through different things is that it's a willingness, it's being able to look at whatever the issue is as it's just the moment. It's what it is. And all you have to do is to accept that and deal with it in the moment. Don't try to deal with it in the future, because I think that's when issues consume you, when you've already projected, what it's going to do. I can't leave this job because I won't find another job. I can't do this because then therefore I won't get this. But look at, the payoffs. Look at it, number one, as being in the moment and living in the moment, and then looking at, the positive perspective, and try so hard not to, prophesy, the future, with these self-fulfilling prophecies by projecting, because that is often, we are often able to do that. We absolutely know we're going to have a negative experience, and we do.
Yeah.
So I would say absolutely know that you're going to have a positive experience, and you will.
Perfect. Ended on a powerful note. Yeah. So can you tell us, Blindside Prophet is currently out, correct? It came out mid-October here.
Yes, it is. Yes, The Blindsided Prophet. It's a novel, and it's out. Came out in mid-October. You can get it in both, the UK and the US, and mainly through online bookstores. It's an ebook as well as paperback, and that's Amazon, and that's also Barnes and Noble, and it's also on the Kindle. It's also on the Nook. But anybody who's got their iPhone, they've got Sony ebook reader. It's available all over the place.
Okay. And how do people get in touch with you?
They can get in touch with me via my website. It's sonjalewis.com. I also have, an email, which is the same thing. It's sonja@sonjalewis.com. And I am on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm also on Google Plus. And for people who are really into the reading community, I'm on Goodreads.
Awesome. Well, Sonja, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. You gave some really good information. I'm excited to dive into your book and find out all the things that you want to share with the world. And truly, thanks for sharing some of your personal stories and ideas. And I think it gives clarity to a lot of people that are looking to transform their life in a direction. I think you shared some really good ways to do that. So I do appreciate your time greatly.
Thank you so much, and all the very best, with the podcast. It's been
I hope you guys enjoyed the interview with Sonja Lewis. I really enjoyed it. It was really fun. She shared some really personal stories, which I really enjoyed because it's not easy getting to know somebody literally within half an hour and really talk about things that happen throughout their lives. And I'm not just talking with Sonja, but anybody that I kind of bring on the podcast. So it's very powerful. And one thing, speaking of being open and truthful, the best way, they say, to talk to somebody, if you're on an airplane or if you meet somebody for the first time, you know how it can be kind of that awkward conversation. You might introduce yourself and you kind of chit-chat about your jobs, because that's always the number one question that everybody asks each other. You talk about your job, you talk about family, some hobbies and kind of the general, weather and everything like that. But truly, 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 if you want to get past that fun, light talking stage, say if you're going to be traveling with somebody for a weekend, you don't know really who that person is or know a lot about that individual, and the conversation's kind of getting awkward at dinner, and you're kind of always hanging out with this person because of business or whatever it may be. They say the best way to really dive into somebody and to really get to know them is to open up and be personal. And it's easier said than done, because you're thinking, well, of course, yeah. I mean, if I open up and if I speak truly of who I am, our conversation could flow better. Yes, but give it a try. If you really open up and tell them your difficulties, tell them the things you're struggling with, tell them the great times that you had or the stories or whatever it may be, it'll lighten the mood. It'll make you feel really human, if that's even the right word to use with communicating to another human. But it really does. Statistics have proven, and also two professional speaking coaches have said that if you open up and if you really just show that individual who you are, it will make that person feel at ease. It'll make yourself feel at ease, and you guys will have just a better communication back and forth. And I don't know why I really shared that with you, but if you're in that weird predicament with that individual, maybe for business, and you really don't care for that person, just be open and truthful and honest. Tell him that you don't like the way he smells. Maybe he put too many mothballs in his luggage that he put in the basement, and now he smells horrible. So maybe don't tell him to his face. Maybe you should say that one for your own. But if you guys enjoyed the conversation about our subconscious mind, Sonja and I kind of hit on that a little bit, head on over to audibletrial.com/OSR and get yourself a free copy of the book, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. Interesting read, very powerful, because it's about your subconscious mind. See what I did there? I kind of brought it back all around there. You guys can go to audibletrial.com/OSR. Get yourself the free copy of Power of Your Subconscious Mind. You will have to sign up with a credit card. I know it's going to take a minute, but you are able to cancel anytime. I do get a little bit of kickback from you guys signing up. So if you'd like to do that and support the Operation Self Reset podcast, it'd be greatly, greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. And so I'm going to start a series at the end of these podcasts because I always try to get very inspirational and motivating at the end of the podcast. So I'm going to say that these are moments with the motivator. Hopefully you guys like that. But I want to speak today about goals and reaching them and the progression of your own personal life. And I want to take a step back and talk about me because I guess it's about me again. But like I said earlier in the podcast, how I'm on 2 different radio stations. Now, again, they're internet radio station, but nonetheless, people reach out to me and they want my content and all that stuff. And truly, this podcast has been blowing up, and I've been receiving some great comments from you guys, and I do appreciate it. And if you guys have any additional comments or concerns or want to ask me things, email me support@operationselfreset.com, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. I'm a busy boy, but as you know, I truly strive to help each and every one of you with your issues that are going on. But back to setting goals and reaching them. You know, when I started this podcast, I truly had a intuition, a desire to interview people about mindset, about getting over things in your life to transform your life. And in the process, I truly found my niche. I really enjoy this podcast. I really enjoy speaking to you guys, even though this is one-sided. I enjoy trying to motivate you and get you inspired to take action in whatever aspect of your life it is. So when I was asked to become a member of these radio stations, I was in shock and in awe. And sometimes we take these milestones for granted. When I started this podcast, did I think, by month 4, I would be on an internet radio station, and by month 6, I would be talking with so-and-so? No, of course not. These events and things happen in our lives so fast and so quickly, and we get so excited and we get so down on ourselves, and almost within the same minute, because we're just kind of like, oh man, even though it was a great successful moment that we just had. And that's why truly, if you take a second and you enjoy every single aspect of your own personal life, I think you can reap the benefits a little more and more. And that goes along with setting goals and reaching them. And when you do reach those goals, I've spoken of other podcasts, is celebrating those little goals, celebrating and taking a minute to yourself, going out for ice cream with your kids or whatever it may be, to celebrate the little things in your life. We get wrapped up in our daily grind, our daily movements, from transporting kids here to picking them up there to coming home, cleaning, eating, organizing, redoing for the next day. And we get into these habits and repetitions, and it's hard sometimes to celebrate. We don't have the time. We don't have the money. That's the number 2 things, or those are the 2 things, that you guys have been emailing me about. And it's good and it's bad. Everybody says we don't have the money. We're looking for an option or another stream of avenue of money. And also, too, you don't have the time. Truly, I don't have the time either. We are all super busy. And even when you're sitting in front of the TV, just staring at it and vegging out, you're thinking to yourself, man, I really don't have time to even be sitting here watching TV. But yet you continue to watch TV. The key is to try to get your life in a specific plan and set your goals towards it. Then you will literally have no time, because your time will be cleaning up the yard. Then you're going to be doing this. You're going to be doing that. So the thing is, We need to make sure that we have a plan in place so we're able to achieve these goals. And when we achieve those goals, celebrate them, enjoy them. I keep speaking of our time is short. You look online, you look on the news, you look all over the place. Celebrity this, recently died. Oh, that coach that you used to have when you were in grade school, he died. Times in our lives, they end very quickly, abruptly, unexpectedly. That's why we need to enjoy them to the best and the fullest that we can. And that's why I spoke so much about earlier in the podcast about being open and speaking to others. Truly, I'm not very open with speaking to other people about this podcast. I find myself holding back more times than I'm speaking about it. Why is that? Am I embarrassed of it? No, by no means. But I feel like maybe like I would come off cocky. Maybe I would come off like it's all about me. But is it really? If you have something cool to share, if you have something interesting, you want other people to know about it, right? If you went to a great restaurant that was really cheap, but amazing service and amazing cuisine, would you tell others about it? Of course you would, because you had an amazing experience. I have interviewed some amazing people on here. I have spoken to some amazing community members out there that have emailed me, and I am in awe of the things that they have shared with me. And I'm just so inspired by the things that I have learned, not only about myself, but from the people that I have interviewed, and also to the people that you guys out there listening have emailed me, and the intuition and the goals that you personally have. And to be a part of that is super, super powerful. I cannot believe it. So that is why you need to set the goals, reach them, and just enjoy them. And to speak openly about your goals. Tell others about them. Tell them how hard it was to achieve that. It might not seem that big of a deal to others, and you might get an impression or a read off that individual's face saying, I don't care about that. Make them care. Let them know. Be the person that you want to become. And the only way to do that is keep reminding yourself of the person that you want to become, and that's by speaking about it, talking to others about it, telling them what the things that really make you tick and the things that you can't wait to achieve. Once you do that, once you open up, I'm telling you, others will start telling you things that you never would have believed. Your best friend, for example, might tell you a secret that you didn't even think that was possible because you guys are best friends, right? You should know everything about each other. But you can achieve everything that you want in life if you just help enough other people achieve what they want in life. You open up, they open up. Once you open up them, they're going to spread the word. And next thing you know, we're all going to be having non-awkward conversations to people on business trips or whatever it may be. So that's the end of my motivational minute, and I hope you guys enjoyed it, because I truly believe the best way to speak to other people, to connect with others, is to speak from the heart. I'm a big fan of podcasts and listening to interviews and other people, and a lot of people speak on topics that are written down. Kind of pre-planned ideas that give conversation flow and shape, and they're very good. Truly, they really are. But I truly feel that my strength is speaking from the heart and speaking from my own soul and mindset and what my true beliefs are. That's why I bring interesting people on the podcast, to give you guys different aspects and different shapes. And when I ask people to come on the podcast, I don't really give them an outline to follow. This is not a question and answer kind of forum. A lot of the things that I talk about and ask them are literally off the cuff. There are no real planned ideas. This isn't staged. This is really real world conversation. This is if I was to walk up to this individual and knowing obviously a background about them, about their books or their ideas or the things that have happened in their lives. And I talk and I want to know, almost like you guys would be asking somebody randomly, how did you get through this? What happened there? So that's my personal approach to Operation Self Reset. And other people, other podcasters, other interviewers have different ideas on that. And I hope that you guys just enjoy the way that I formulate this podcast, kind of keeping it real. You know what I mean? So off of that, if you guys love this podcast, speaking about loving and enjoying podcasts, please leave a review on iTunes. Before I let you guys go, this is Thanksgiving week, and along with Thanksgiving comes, wait for it, Black Friday. Yes, the day we have been waiting for all year. Well, I don't have anything to sell you guys. I don't have anything to give away, but if you do leave a review for the podcast. If you could go over to osrpodcast.com, I have a free little gift for you. It's 9 apps that have truly inspired me to stay focused, motivated, keep my goals in order, keep myself in order, to help me kind of meditate or relax. These are 9 apps that truly have helped me. They're all free apps. To get that PDF, that free report, head on over to osrpodcast.com. All I ask you guys to do is leave a review on iTunes and subscribe. There are 2 links. There's 3 steps. I have a little video for you, and then I will email you the free report of the 9 apps. They're all free. You can download them on Android or iPhone, any tablet, any computer, and they're really cool apps. I think also, too, they're probably apps you'd never heard of, because these are not the run-of-the-mill, kind of invented by Apple or provided with the phones or anything like that. They're really unique. Not too many people know about them, and I hope that you guys really enjoy them, because we do use our iPhones and Android phones like no other. They are attached to us. We have reminders going, we have alerts going, we have clocks going. I mean, so much stuff on our phones that are always helping us through our progression of the day. And I really think that these 9 apps, you'll find a lot of value in them. And maybe all 9 of them won't apply to you, but I guarantee there are 4 in there that you just have to have. So head on over to osrpodcast.com to get that free report. All I need you to do is leave a review on iTunes, subscribe, and give me your email address so I can send you the free report. So thank you so much for all of your support. And wow, these podcasts really get long, so I appreciate you guys for sticking around and waiting for the closing summary. Like always, I bring in the closing music, which my wife really enjoys. And this is Thanksgiving week. And Thursday, it's not all about football. It's not about, looking at the advertisements, waiting for Friday. It's about spending time with family and spending time with the people that you maybe don't enjoy, because the majority of us are going over to family houses, and maybe we don't love our Uncle Eddie. But you know what? He's probably a great guy, and give him that hug and get to know him and enjoy him, because he's not going to be around forever. And he, as quirky and as weird as he may get, just enjoy him for who he is, because we're all kind of weird in our own way. Wouldn't you agree? We all have some quirk or something odd about us that maybe others don't appreciate, but you know what? That's who we are, and we just got to enjoy it, because family really brings, really brings you back home. Really grounds you into your own personal traditions, into the person that you are. And even though that Uncle Eddie, he's weird and awkward and crazy, and he gets drunk, and then he swears at the TV when the football game's not going well, whatever it may be, just enjoy it, because Thanksgiving is all about being thankful for everything that you have. And the one kind of homework thing or to do for this week is to be thankful for everything that you have in your life. And it's not to celebrate it on Thanksgiving Day, but maybe do it earlier in the week when you have a moment to yourself. Maybe when you're walking your dog or driving the car by yourself, turn off the radio, turn off your distractions, and just look around your own personal life. Think of everything that you have, from your home to your family to the car to just being grateful to have friends that are so loving. And it's not about materialistic things. And it's all, we always want bigger, newer, faster, cleaner, technology increased objects around us. But it's just being grateful for the things that we have in our own lives. There's so many people out there that are struggling, that are not doing well, they're just in bad positions in their current life. And you might be in that bad position. I hope that you get out of it, and I hope you succeed and become great. But for the people that do have some things that are going very well, and maybe just going through some difficulty right now, stay positive. Be grateful for everything that you have. Take a second and just thank your family, thank your cousins, be just thankful that you have a job that you kind of enjoy, or you really do enjoy. Thank you for the transportation that you have, the ability to pick the numerous clothes out of your closet. Thankful to have food on the table, food in your fridge, to have a fridge, just everything. I'm telling you, if you be grateful for everything that surrounds you, you'll become a more positive individual, just more enjoyable individual. And that's something that will bring you back to the basics of just being a great human being. Just being grateful for the little things. So that's my homework for you. I hope you guys enjoyed this last podcast. I'm going to keep on pumping them out on Mondays. I thank you again for all your support. If you want to leave a review on iTunes, head on over to osrpodcast.com. I got the free gift for you. Enjoy Black Friday. Enjoy Thanksgiving more with your family. And give Uncle Eddie, that weird, crazy, drunk, obnoxious uncle or cousin, whoever he may be to you, just give him a little extra hug for me. So take care, guys. We'll catch you in the next episode.